Hey, you got a big weekend and week you've been handling.
It
The
would
last
be
six
okay if we
months.
were in one or two locations, but we're in so many. Um, Shannon, Amy is texting. Oh, wait, here we go. Zoom links. Okay. She wants to get on. I got it.
We had 5 registered already in Zoom, and I know there were more registered. And then we send it out to all of the athletes who were registered as well as coaches.
Cool. Great.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have a plethora of people.
Yeah. And thank you again for doing this. Like I said, I'm usually a lot calmer, but it's been kind of a crazy, crazy week.
Yeah, no, that's how those events typically go. I don't know if you guys know John Southall when he started 5280 challenge. I don't even know if they're still doing it anymore. Um, yeah, we would plan it and then like the day weekend would come and you're doing like a whole week of events and more multiple sports, so I cannot
Yeah.
fathom.
Cindy, speaking of things, did you hear that Karen Bach is not coming?
Yes, but did you hear the reason? That's so scary.
Yeah, they have many tornadoes in Denver
Oh my
and
God.
our Colorado Springs. And did you check on John? Is he okay?
John, who's John? Oh,
Your
my
son who
John.
lives, uh-huh. You know that
I
kid?
forget I have a family and I'm like I'm like
You're
engaged.
focused. You're locked in right now.
Yeah, I'm like my son, I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah, they've been having wild weather. They had we still own our house in Denver when we moved to Portland and they had like a major hailstorm. It was probably the same day of the tornadoes, and I've just been avoiding checking on on what that means
Tom
for all.
Southall is one of my favorite people.
He is so lovely. I think he's in Utah now,
Yes,
right?
he is. He
Yeah.
is. He's in the what I think is really cool. He's in the Denver Hall of Fame. And I was bike riding in Denver and I'm like, oh my God, there's Tom. So he's just
Yeah.
such a great person.
He is such a gift. He is great. Yeah. My dad and him coached for a long time together. We're in like the Denver coaching track world.
Nice.
He finally got
All
me. He
right.
finally got me in sport, and now I'm out. Time flies.
Well, you're kind of in, but in a different
Yeah,
way, right?
in a different, yeah, my our relationships change. That's how we talk about it in sports psychology. Your
Yep,
relationship changes.
There's
absolutely. Oh, good.
Amy.
Amy's on. So Amy's
Yep.
our head wheelchair track coach. So
Okay, cool.
All right,
hi.
it's 7 o'clock. Hi.
Let me go grab my little chihuahua and put him on the couch so he doesn't, hopefully doesn't bark while
Okay,
I'm
well, I'll wait till you
Well,
come back.
two
I've been
seconds yet.
like,
Yeah, so Kelly Stone is going to be the lead for the archery, correct?
I have been dealing with powerlifting.
Okay. Yeah. So I believe Kelly Stone, who's a level 2 um archery instructor or whatever, she's going to step in for Karen.
Okay.
So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and start this webinar and I'll introduce you, Lacey, and just welcome everybody, and then I'll turn it over to you.
Great, sounds good.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Annalise. Hi, Izzy. I know we can't hear you, so I go ahead and allow you to talk
Hello.
there. We'll wait for
Guys,
we'll wait for a few minutes and
Hey.
ask other people to get in, but thanks for joining. Annalise, you're flying in early Saturday, is that what you said? Or early Friday?
Driving tomorrow and getting there probably really late on Friday night.
Okay. All right, well, just be careful.
Thank you.
text
That's the
if you
mama
need
coming out.
anything, Annalise.
Thank you. I'm employed my dad to drive, so hopefully I'll just be passenger princess.
Okay, you do that. You gotta gear up for competition on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Me too.
Cindy, do you mind turning on like the light on the desk in front of you?
Sure.
Because you're going dark.
The sun is right in my eyes, believe it or not.
Yeah. Hi, Sam or Becca.
FYI, guys, I'm at the hotel if you need anything. I'll see you in a couple minutes.
We're down at the restaurant.
Okay.
Hey, Sam. I remember that name.
Hello.
She's partners with Reason Jordan. So it's us to be partners. Yeah.
We're just giving everybody a few minutes to join us, and then we'll get started.
Shannon, you're going to do the introduction, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okey doke.
Yeah, I was telling Lacey how excited I am about this one because this one is probably the most useful to somebody, who's not necessarily in sports compared to the others. So I was like, been to college, still paying for my son's college for that matter. So I need that. I need mental preparedness for sure, especially for this weekend.
Yes,
Yeah,
stress management. That's mostly what it is.
Yeah,
There's so many words for a lot of the same way that we regulate ourselves, right?
yeah. All right. Well, we'll go ahead. We've given everybody about 4 minutes. There may be some other people coming on. Um, so I'll go ahead and start the introductions. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for being here as part of the games. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys live and in person. Um, and so this session is elite mental preparation, ready for whatever. I really like that part, ready for whatever. And our guest speaker today is Lacey Henderson. Lacey is a retired Paralympian. She is also an NBC Sports Paralympics host, which I think is super cool, and a mental performance coach for the Portland Timbers, which I had to look up, but it is a soccer team. I'm ashamed that I don't know that because I have soccer players in my household and we watch soccer all the time. So anyway, welcome, Lacey. We really appreciate you being here, and we're really looking forward to your presentation today.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, and Shannon, in your defense, there are so many soccer leagues and teams in the world, that I don't blame you on, but honestly, I had applied for that job and I had to look it up too. But I'm
Well, that
here
makes me
now.
feel better. Thank you.
Exactly. I'm still learning. So yeah, I work for the Portland Timbers. They are an MLS team in the United States. I work with all three of our like it's called the vertical. So our first team players, so those are the ones you see on TV as well now this year with second team and academy kind of building the infrastructure for their sports psychology programming, but that's not what I'm here for today. What I'm here for is what my real passion and my love and my former life was, and that is the intersection, the marriage perhaps of sports psychology and Paralympic or adaptive sport. Yeah, as Shannon mentioned, I'm a retired Paralympian, so at the level of competition that you're at this weekend when you go to nationals or desert challenge. These are a lot of tools that maybe you are already using, but maybe didn't have a name or a specific way to organize it in your mind. Some of this might be new information. And the fun thing about sports psychology and mental performance is it applies to a lot of different parts of life. I like to say, with my athletes, especially with my professional athletes, that sometimes life is the performance. And so a lot of these tools will land for a lot of different contexts. And something that I really have noticed in my career now, doing mental performance in sports, like in a non-disabled world. The ironic thing is, after all the schooling, after all the training, I've found that I'm most successful in my practice when I'm integrating the disability, accessibility, adaptive sports like stuff with my pro soccer players all the time. It hits every time, every time. So I'm excited to share a little bit of tips and tricks and tools that can work for you. So before we get started, and I know there isn't a lot of us, but I would love for what is going on with this? Can you guys still see my slides?
Mhm.
Okay. I just had something pop up on this screen and I'll just move it down there. Okay, so before we get started, I ask my soccer players this. If they are hiding somewhere in this chat or in this Zoom, I will know because they'll know the answer to this. A question that I ask my players a lot when we talk about sport, when we talk about mental performance, is how do you get better? Just tell me if you can, think about it and put in the chat maybe what do you think makes you better at your sport? Um, and put what sport you do if you're competing this weekend or if you just like a sport that you play. Let me know in that chat. Let me see. Can I see the chat? Okay, yes, I can. Being able to listen to your body. Okay, T36. So we have the 30s. I like that, being able to listen to your body. Track and athletics. I like that. That's very global of you. Athletics, track and field.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? What do you think makes you better at your sport? And what is your sport? So I can better serve the group. Sam, I'm pretty sure you're a track guy. I'm trying to remember. Maybe we'll give it a couple more minutes. What do you think makes you better at your sport? You can also unmute if that's easier. How do you get better? What makes you better at your sport? Cindy, you want to try to give a shot? What do you think makes you better?
Right. There's passion, absolutely. Knowing your competitors.
I like that. I'm putting that in our thing. Knowing your competitor.
I'll add in. I'm a
Okay,
coach and also a Paralympian, retired Paralympian.
let's go.
But I'll say practice.
Amy,
Yeah.
that's my answer.
Oh.
You practice it. That's one. So there's a lot. So it's an oversimplified thing, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot of different ways that we get better at our sport. And it's all of the above, right? Like being able to listen to your body. It's giving you information, and I'm going to talk about that later, all of the time, and having passion. That makes you better, right? Because what are the things that motivate us to keep coming back to practice? Because some days, right? Some days it does not feel like the thing you want to do, right? But if we have passion for what we're doing, we're achieving something, we're striving towards something, we feel really strongly towards it. That might help us out a little bit with practice. Knowing our competitors, right? That's going to make us better so we can gauge what do I need to work on? Like what are my strengths that maybe I can build on? What is maybe my competitor? Where are they at? Can we push each other? These are all really, really good things. But at the end of the day, what we do in our sport makes us better only if we keep practicing it. And so that is something that I say every single time I have a group session with my team is like they know the answer. And I'm like, all right, guys, how do we get better at soccer? You practice it, Lacey. Okay, so when we're talking about mental skills and mental prep, this is something that we would want to build into our practice, just like we would do a physical practice. When I had started with this team, our head coach, who played for Manchester United, told me, he's like, listen, soccer is divided into three things. He's very serious, but I think that this can be kind of like broadened out to a lot of different sport disciplines. Is that there's the physical, so like how your body is, your fitness, the tactical, and I think for track and field, maybe that would just be a little bit more technical, technique stuff. And then there's the mental. And there has to be kind of a coming together of these three different aspects that make us better at our sport. And they all require practice. Physical is like weightlifting in the gym, making sure our bodies are fit, having good nutrition. Technical, tactical, right? Like knowing where my body needs to be, race strategies, throwing strategies, kind of setting up the day. And then mental is how am I going to regulate myself? There's a lot of different things in mental skills, but a lot of it is how am I going to make myself mentally in the position where I need to be when it matters. So, I think I have another question is what are mental skills? What do you think encompasses mental skills? I think you guys had some good, we started kind of a little bit, but if you want to throw it in the chat or you want to unmute, what do you think includes a mental skill?
Emotional regulation, maybe, like mental toughness.
Yeah, great. I'm just writing your words in the chat so we have it organized. Great. Confidence, that's a great one. Yes. This is another one of those like there is no wrong answer. Every answer is the right answer. So I just threw some up here because mental skills are a lot of different things. This is not an exhaustive list. And honestly, I love that like confidence and mental toughness are things that right that I didn't even think about when I was just putting this list together. But those are all really important things when it comes to being mentally prepared and mentally fit in order to perform. These are just some things that I threw in here. Goal setting, self-talk, mindfulness. Again, like when I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about, is it something that is going to help me in my performance, or is it maybe distracting me or not helping me in my performance? And this list is surely not exhaustive. So I wanted to go into something more disability specific while we're kind of building this. And has anyone in this Zoom room heard of spoon theory? Does anyone know what this is? I'll take your silence for me to keep going. Happy to do it. So, spoon theory was created in 2003 by a writer and a blogger. Her name's Christine Miserandino, and she has an invisible disability, lupus, so a chronic pain, invisible disability. And so she created this theory, spoon theory, and the theory itself is illustrating the trade-offs that happen with people with disabilities that they just like take. And this isn't a sports specific thing, but this is disability specific on like any given day. So spoon theory is a metaphor essentially, assuming that like everybody starts off with let's say 10 spoons. Um, and the metaphor itself uses like the number of spoons to explain the limited daily energy of people living with chronic illness, disability, mental health conditions. So each spoon out of the 10 spoons represents a unit of physical or mental energy. This is energy output. So once a person runs out of spoons for the day, there's no reserve tank. This is when you could get higher inflammation, acute stress responses, things with our medical equipment, maybe we have flare-ups, our disability starts going from like a regular disabled day to like a bad disability day. I'm a leg amputee, so we call them bad leg days, where your disabilities may be a little bit more louder than it is. So an example of spoon theory would be like someone non-disabled, you wake up, right? Getting out of bed. Okay, so if I'm a not disabled person, getting out of bed might cost me 1 spoon. Well, as an amputee, I have to put my leg on. Like I have to make sure it's put on the right way if I have gained weight or something. So that's going to cost me more than 1 spoon. And it's the same with anybody with a disability, I think, going through the day. So not just getting up, but okay, if we have to shower, there's more medical equipment involved. Okay, now I have to drive, or I don't drive because of my disability. So I have to wait for someone to come get me. I have to wait for the bus. So again, there are these trade-offs that happen, and she just uses the spoons as the metaphor of being like, we run out of these energy reserves quicker if we aren't doing this mental preparation, then you would see somebody maybe in a different context. Um, and so, oops, I wanted to go back there. So when we combine the idea of spoon theory and sport performance for the adaptive or the para athlete, this just means that like each person already, because parasport, adaptive sport incorporates different types of disabilities, everybody's going to have a different energy reserve, or what we say in sports psychology, a cognitive load. It just costs energy that's going to be relative and specific to them. And this means like when you are learning a sport, maybe you're a little bit newer at a sport, you want to try something new. If you aren't working like with a certain coach or like somebody you know, and you're just maybe scrolling TikTok, what are some strategies that can help me? I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but it doesn't mean that it's all necessarily going to work because, at least in the world of sports psychology, you'll see breath work where it's like making sure your full spine is erect and making sure you're breathing in one nostril, breathing out the other nostril. That requires two hands, dexterity, all this stuff. That means in the disability para-specific sport world, there are just different approaches that we take to the foundations of these mental skills. And all it's meant to do is to preserve the energy and not cost you more, right? We don't want like learning new mental skills to be something that's taking energy away from us. We want it to be enhancing it. We don't want this to be a stressful thing. We want this to be something that makes us feel good and makes us feel more ready. So I use this slide a lot. I think everybody is aware of what stress is. So I have this little sparkle here. I'm like, the first step is awareness. So this is kind of just being aware of how stress plays and looks in our lives in different aspects. So I have on the left side, you'll see acute stress. And so when we talk about stress, it's kind of organized into three different pockets. Um, and when we talk about stress and combining it with this idea of spoon theory, if we show up with less spoons than we have on a normal day or a more energized day, it's going to affect our stress levels and how we manage that stress. So, like most disabled folks, especially athletes, I see them teeter to this right side of chronic stress. So the left side is acute stress. And an example I use is like if you drive, you're driving along the highway, somebody cuts you off right in front of you, and you feel that spike in your body kind of like go up. A jump scare in a scary movie, right? When something jumps and you feel that you jump in your seat, your heart rate goes up a little bit more. This is an acute stress moment. So what that does is it's kind of the old fight or flight, if you've heard about that, your brain getting ready to like, do I need to fight this thing or do I need to run? That's an acute stress moment. Usually after the car cut you off or something, you come back down pretty quickly. You're like, whew, that was wild. But like we kind of re-regulate. It's just kind of a quick in the moment thing that happens. The middle part is moderate stress. And I think of this when like I'm working with my athletes who are also students and it's finals week and we have to study. And then of course there's always like some important competition inevitably during finals week. So like we have our kind of baseline stress and then moderate stress is like a little bit higher. It's still manageable. It doesn't feel good. And the research around moderate stress is like you can do a lot of this hard stuff, like maintaining the stress, planning for a big event. About 4 to 6 weeks is the research of like, okay, I can kind of handle this really hard thing. It doesn't feel good, but like I can still kind of stay in a place where I'm performing well and I'm still like at a healthy level. Um, and then on the left side, chronic stress. So this is when we're kind of going back past the 4 to 6 to 8 week mark, and you're like, wow, I just manage a lot of stress. And the chronic stress is when we talk about stress in an adverse way towards our health. This is when we start seeing performance decline. So you'll see the last line on the chronic stress, like I'm performing, I'm maintaining, and then I'm dropping off. My sleep is starting to go bad. My appetite is changing. I notice I'm irritable. I'm all out of spoons. You're starting the day off with even less spoons than you left the day before. So what we want to try to avoid as much as possible, especially as like a para athlete, an adaptive athlete, is to have is to be able to manage more acute stress moments and handle moderate stress, but we want to avoid the chronic stress because we don't want these like adverse health things happening to us that we see with chronic stress. So when I talk about stress, I like to ask people like, what do you think? Do you think stress is bad? Is stress bad for you? I talked a little bit about health stuff, but do you think stress is really bad for you?
It can be, but it can be like protective as well.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. We have only made it as a species for thousands of years because of these stress responses. It does. It protects us, and been able to go on throughout the world like this for a long time because it is protective. So thanks for that. But what I put here is like, is stress bad? Not all the time. We talk about stress like in the adverse ways because if we're managing chronic stress, that's like high heart rate, these stress responses that are protective are not meant to be something that we maintain every day, all day, weeks and weeks and weeks, months and months, months on end. But stress can be really useful. And I think you said it best, Annalise, is like it's protective, and a lot of that protective mechanism is really good for sport performance. Because we were out there thousands of years living in caves fighting bears, but we were not running around a track, and that's what we do today. So physiologically, we have not changed a ton, but our activities certainly have. So this is a very old, very traditional, not disabled specific sports psych reference. And it's called the Yerkes-Dodson Law of Optimal Arousal. It's a lot of words. Arousal is such a 1906 word. I love like kind of incorporating that. But what I think of is like this word arousal. This is also stress, or what we talk about in sport is activation. So it's reframing like the idea that stress is bad and reframing. Maybe if you're feeling nerves before you compete or even nerves the night before, this is kind of that system drawn out in a graph. So it's this inverted U. We got a scale of 1 to 10 on the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, this is where our performance is low down here. And you'll see, you probably can't see my mouse. So you'll see the performance is low over by the 1, but it's also low over by the 9 and 10. So what that means, if we go up and follow it around 4, 5, 6, the performance is actually high. If we have really low levels of stress, where you see this 1, 2, 3 on the left here, that's like, didn't really wake up, didn't have my coffee, like didn't get my warm up in, like I'm not really feeling activated. This is okay, nice. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat now. See, the spoons really slap with us. But on this low end, 1 through 3, okay, I'm just kind of like not getting to where I need to get to when it comes to like sharpness and like feeling like I'm fast, feeling like I'm explosive, like I can get what I need to get done. But if we're over here on 7, 8, 9, 10, this is more common for a lot of people. I think especially folks with disabilities, we tend, I think because we manage less spoons than the average person by the time we're competing, a lot of times that system can go into overdrive and it's just like a little louder when it comes to the anxiety, to the stress. And this is when it's like my body's shaking. I feel like I can't control myself. Like the official says something and I didn't hear it, and now I feel like they're mad at me, right? And this is when like our frontal lobe goes offline and you just need to survive. This is just pure survival at this point. And that's really hard to control when you're trying to do a long jump or a throw or like a mid-distance run. So what we really want is like the Goldilocks zone. So this 4, 5, 6 in the middle, because you'll see with the inverted U right here on the graph, that's where the highest levels of performance are. And it's a little bit of a dance to know what that feels like in your body, but we will do some activities here a little bit later. But the idea is to kind of hit that Goldilocks zone and be in the middle of that stress and activation so that you can use that system in your body for your benefit for performance, but not like get too hot or not get to the point where like maybe I'm shutting down because I'm also underactivated because it's really stressful. Let me see in this chat. I can imagine this shifts a bit with pain management as well. Yes, absolutely. All of these things, like our levels of stress and activation are going to be as dynamic as our disabilities are on some day. And so like there are days where you just have a hard disability day. And like when we do spoon theory, you're like, okay, it's going to cost me 2 spoons instead of 1 to do this thing. I can just tell. It's just one of those days, right? So when we do the mental skills and the mental preparation, we're going to hopefully have more spoons in our pocket because doing the sport is also going to cost a lot of spoons. And that's okay because that's a fun spoon expense rather than just like a boring or harder or less um, attractive spoon expense. So how do we get to that Goldilocks, that optimal level of activation and performance? So what I kind of wanted to group and talk about and have us try a couple things today. I kind of organized them together, breath work and mindfulness, and then some imagery and routines. And these are hopefully things that you can try, not just in the Zoom call, but immediately after, because I'm going to do this in the middle of the talk because how do we get better at our sport? We have to practice it. So we're going to learn first and then we're going to practice it. So when I talk about breath work, we can use the breath to energize ourselves or to relax. So something that I like to talk about when we're talking about stress levels. Um, since we know that we have not changed for thousands of years, but our activities and our lifestyle has, way back when we were fighting bears, you'd see the bush shake, right? And you're like, uh-oh, was that the wind or is that a snake coming to kill me? So there's like all these different ways that your brain is telling you, look out, this is danger. If it was a bear, if a bear came out of that bush, then we're running, right? Or we're punching that bear. So fight or flight, it's either throwing hands or running away. And when we finally get to safety, the first thing we did as a species, when we knew that we were safe, we went, whoo, right? This big long exhale. So if you look at kind of my key right there, the key to relaxing breath work is always a longer exhale. That is the signal to your brain that like I'm safe, the bear's gone, I can relax. So this in a sport context, right? If I'm feeling nerves, I'm kind of feeling that activation coming up in me, maybe sweaty hands. I'm a hand sweater. That's usually my physical sign. Knowing when your body's telling you, okay, I'm starting to get stressed. We always try to pair that with a long exhale. So there's so many types of breath work. If you look it up online, you will see so many different breathing techniques and Wim Hof and Andrew Huber and like all these names and all this stuff. And so I just wanted to simplify it as much as possible because a lot of these protocols, like the box breathing, the circle breathing, triangle, every shape, nasal breathing, there's holds you can do. I think because of my disability, I acquired an amputation after having cancer, and when I was on chemo, I got asthma. So holding my breath, I would do these breath holds, and I was like, I'm more stressed than I started. Like this is harder for me. So I like to tell clients we're honoring our bodies. Annalise said it first, like a part of our sport is listening to your body. So the first step is the awareness, right? When is my body telling me that it's stressed? And that's usually like maybe feeling agitated, tightness, if you're noticing tightness in your body, the shakes, the sweats, all those things, right? That's information our body is telling us something. And so the way that we can tell our bodies things is through this breath work, longer exhale. But if we try something and we're doing new breath work, we're trying something new, and you're like, this does not really feel that good, like that is your body telling you this is not the one. This is not the one for us. So I encourage you to try. We can do, let me explain the energizing and then maybe we'll try a little bit of breath work protocol, see what feels good for you. When we talk about energizing, I just recently had an athlete that's like he plays baseball and he's like, when I'm in the field, I'm bored. And it made me think about being a field athlete in track and field. And I think in para sport too, sometimes there's a lot of downtime because there's a thrower that needs to change into their throwing chair and they need to get it tied down. There's a lot of kind of like the hurry up and wait. So if you find yourself maybe being like, I don't know, I'm kind of bored right now, like, and when we get back to performing, having a little bit harder of a time to like get back, get sharp, there's also energizing breath. And so that the key there is a shorter exhale. So that's something that it's like, when you're running, this is where we're having a little bit more of like a rhythm that's shorter, a little bit more shallow. So a bigger but shorter exhale is like the key. Those are the two things I want you to take away with. And this recording is, or this Zoom is being recorded. So please come back and review this. But no, relaxing, long exhale, energize, shorter exhale. And this is often paired in mindfulness. So we are gonna do, yeah, we'll do the breath work with a mindfulness practice. So when we talk about mindfulness, mindfulness is a sport enhancer. I am convinced after all the research, it's existed again for thousands of years. It's been dressed up in a lot of different phrases and words, but essentially mindfulness is paying attention on purpose, so doing it with intention. In the present moment, we're not panicking about the future, but the what could happen, so this or that. We're not going back in the past and being like, oh, I can't believe I made that mistake, ruminating on that. We are making sure that we are in this moment right now without judgment. And so sometimes in sport, what without judgment looks like is not being like, I messed up, that was so bad, right? It's like, oh, you know what? I need to just pick my knees up next time. Or I think about this a lot. I've had athletes that are like, well, the ref should have done this. And you know what? Most of the time you're right. Sometimes refs make mistakes too, and they made a bad call. And it's kind of just like, okay, well, the official did that. And I'm going to move on to the next thing that I need to do. So the judgment part with athletes is is something that I find myself working a lot on. And I think that's also just like being a human. Sometimes the things that should be this way, or that it shouldn't be this way, or this is like hard, or I can't handle this, like the way that we have judgment in our life in a modern context sounds a little different, but it still impacts us and takes us away from the present moment and takes us away from ourselves and from our bodies. So there's a lot of different ways to practice mindfulness. A lot of it is being the observer, so observing sounds, observing sights, observing sensations. So I put breath work underneath there. And that's because like even observing like what breathing feels like inside your body. Five senses grounding. There's any meditation app you can follow. A lot of people, myself included. I love a guided meditation. I am not a Buddhist monk. I can't just sit still and do mindfulness by myself. I need a guide. I need a buddy. So um, I think any app is great. Any video on YouTube for meditating is great because you have kind of something holding your attention while you're going through it. So what we're going to do right now is practice mindfulness. So I encourage you wherever you are, we'll just do a quick couple minutes of including our five senses and breath work so you can kind of get an example of that. And if five senses are not available to you, do as many that you can do. So just sitting here, if you're sitting, just noticing maybe the weight of your body. You could even look around the room and the area. Right now, this is just grounding. So it's just being aware of our space, being aware of our body in this space. And if you feel comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes. You can rest them. You can just watch the screen, whatever feels good for you. And let's take a breath in, and you can take a belly breath. Just do what feels good, something that feels like it's a nice, deep cleansing breath. And a nice, slow exhale out, nice and controlled and relaxed. Again, noticing your body, maybe noticing the temperature of the room that you're in, or if you have an air conditioner running, noticing the sound of that. Maybe there's noise around you. You might be in a hotel lobby, just allowing the sounds and the sights to exist, right? Not thinking that they should be something different other than what they are. Maybe even taking your next breath in with your nose, if that's comfortable. Noticing if there's a smell, nice and slow, long exhale out. If you've noticed by now that your mind started thinking about, oh, I need to do this other thing, or what am I going to have for dinner? Any thought that has taken you away from this moment, I invite you to just acknowledge that you're having that thought, maybe observe it and let it pass back. Maybe come back to another breath, breathing in as deep as you can, really filling up the chest and a long exhale out, coming back, maybe noticing our bodies one more time, looking around the room, noticing the sounds, noticing my voice. And if your eyes were closed, I invite you to blink them open, coming back to the space, coming back to this Zoom room. And that's just an easy mindfulness thing. There's so many different ways to do mindfulness, but the key is just being present, being in your body, without judgment. This quote on the bottom, I used a lot when I was working with this group that was a sports psych from the Seattle Seahawks, and he would say, "Focus is a choice, and refocusing is the skill." So a lot of mindfulness is not just being able to be still and zen and all that. It's noticing that your brain probably is going a million miles an hour and just bringing it back and trying to sit and then noticing when your brain wanders off because that's what it does. Brains are designed to do stuff. They're not designed to just sit there with nothing in them, right? And I think mindfulness is a great example of sport practice, of sport performance, right? Because in track and field, at least, like we're doing something and then we're going to come back and do it again in practice, right? We're doing something and then we're coming back and then bringing ourselves back, doing what's important. So mindfulness, just like any other mental skill, is something that works really, really great when it's practiced. There's a ton of research on stress management, on um, just emotion regulation, on a lot of different performance factors with mindfulness. And that is a great one to have. So there's so many different ways you can access it. I will put I can put my email or any ways to contact me after this too, so we can play around with something. But That is like chef's kiss. So the other the other group I have is imagery and what did I have with imagery? Oh, routines. Okay, so imagery. So we talk about imagery as different from visualization. So imagery in and of itself is a version of visualization, but we say imagery because we're creating an image, and that means we're including more senses. So hopefully you're seeing how a lot of these are intertwined with each other. So imagery, you can see yourself in your mind's eye, if that's available to you, either in your first person, so like what your view would look like visualization examples would be seeing myself at practice, seeing myself, I was a long jumper, so like what the runway looks like, what it looks like when I'm running through, or if I wanted to pretend like I'm looking at myself third person, like I'm watching a video of myself doing my sport. That is the visual aspect of that. But when we do imagery, and the research shows the neural pathways that are connected are way stronger when we're including the other senses. So I have an asterisk here, inclusive of five or as many senses as possible, because again, right, that's not everybody got the same. We're not working with all the same stuff all the time when it comes to disability and parasport context. So you use what you got. I remember um, at a Chula camp, at a couple actually, we would have these like mental performance sports psychs come in, and they tried, man. They were not disabled people, and it's not their fault, right? And they probably didn't work with that population very often. So they would start a mindfulness session or a visualization or an imagery session with us. And I'll never forget, as this woman was going through and she was like, make sure you're feeling your feet. Okay, well, if we have a bilateral amputee, she's lost the room immediately, right? Because those are people with no feet. Or I know like we'd go through the scripts and she's like, okay, notice what does XYZ look like? Okay, if I'm working with a visually impaired athlete, like what I'm imaging might be different than just what does this look like? What am I seeing in my mind's eye? Because they're going to have a different experience. So, um, I like making sure that I'm including sensations and sounds. And then when it comes to like the para and adaptive specific stuff, like what does my body feel like in my adaptive equipment? Or like what do I know after I've warmed up and I've had a really good performance? What does that feel like specific to my body, specific to my disability? What does my disability sound like when I'm going through my sport? So like as a leg amputee, like on my prosthetic side, a lot louder, right? Like the sound of the prosthetic hitting the ground is different from my sound side foot. Same with the racing chair. Like what are the sounds going through? What does it really feel like when I know that I'm fitting in something well? So um imagery pairs really, really well with routines. So that is maybe a good warm up. That is like if you are like a field athlete going through kind of like a pre-race or a pre-throw or a lift. I think I heard somebody's a lifter, like your pre-lifting routine that works really well for you. We're including all of that in there. And something that's really important with imagery, especially when it comes to a competition, is knowing what the field of play looks like knowing what time of day you're going to compete. So these are things when we go into routines, if I click it right, um, that kind of pair with each other. Because if I'm competing in the morning and I'm thinking about what that looks like, what that feels like, what it sounds like, what it smells like, the morning's got a very distinct feel compared to like an evening when I know it's going to be dark, when I know the runway is going to be affected, when I know there's either going to be more people, those track meets, like there's like one person in the morning and then like more and more people come and then towards the really end late, then they're all gone again. Okay, like what are things that I can expect? And a lot of that requires just a little bit of planning so we can kind of fold that back into the imagery routine, because the research does show that the neural pathways with our muscles connected to our brains, when we do those things, those muscles, those parts of our body light up as if we were performing. So it's a great way to still activate your body without introducing a ton of stress. So it is a great thing to have in your routine, and to include the routine in your imagery. So this just reduces cognitive load. I like to think of routines in and of themselves as kind of like a scaffolding of your day or of your performance. So some things are like absolutely non-negotiable. That these things are the things creating the structure. So this is like making sure I'm eating before or after training, brushing my teeth in the morning, right? Warm-ups, my sports specific gear. Um, but the routine itself it should be repeatable and adaptable. If it is too rigid, rigid systems or fragile systems. Things that are flexible are really strong and they can handle a lot of different things. So being not just repeatable, but adaptable. And that means like when we have our non-negotiables, okay, I know what I'm eating. What I'm eating maybe could be a little bit more flexible. Okay. Another example would be like, I know that I have to do like these types of exercises in my workout. Okay, well, I don't have 10 meters. Is 5 meters going to be okay? I just do 2 sets of five. Like, where can I be a little adaptable in how I produce the non-negotiable part of my routine? So things that would be included in a daily routine is like your practice warm up, your structure of the day, morning routine when I wake up, right? Brushing my teeth, nighttime routine, how am I winding down? When do I say goodnight to my cell phone? Those types of things or that we can just kind of integrate and really simplify our day because that's going to give us more spoons. We're going to get slightly more spoon, probably not a ton of spoons, but a little return of spoons when we can kind of reduce this cognitive load. What I like to say, like with routines, is we're also limiting surprises, and we're managing expectations because the only surprise that I want to see in the field of play is a personal record, right? And not an unexpected situation or something that has mismatched my expectation. And now I'm spending all my spoons again because I'm trying to kind of like resituate myself and re-regulate myself when maybe I could have just built this in with either some pre-planning or some practice of that routine. Um, and when I talk about cognitive load, that just means being able to manage stress and manage things in our life mentally a little bit better. So we just have more spoons, so that we can use those spoons when we compete, because that is the goal of spoons in the disabled sport context. Um, so I will ask one more time before we get into questions, because I wanted to leave it for like 15 minutes of conversation of questions. Um, in case there was anybody that showed up late, I just wanted to say it one more time. How do you get better at your sport? What was that? You practice it. You practice it. Yes. I saw you on mute, Annalise. I saw you. I knew you were there for me. I knew you got it. And so that is the exact same thing that I want for you to get better at your sport when it comes to mental skills. I want you to practice it. So, um, we will open it up for questions, but I would love to know. You can put it in the chat, you can unmute, and I can write it in the chat for you. What is a mental skill you want to practice this weekend? Imagery and mindfulness. Love it. Yes, we have to. There you go. And you put it in the chat. Yes, you practice it. Imagery, mindfulness, maybe a little bit of prep, including all those things in the imagery, right? Where am I going? When am I competing? We're reducing that cognitive load because you deserve more spoons, guys. Um, so I would love to know questions for me. Jacob, I saw you wrote something in the chat. During an injury as well, getting those reps in even when you can't come. Yes. Yes, you get it. You're getting it. That's exactly when I'm working with athletes, we call them on return to play. So injured athletes, people that are in like a return to play protocol, there's still a lot of things that are happening during that time. And like using imagery in the off season can be really good if there's something you wanted to change technique wise, if you're like a middle or long distance race or something strategy wise, but like it's a little too big of a risk in competition season. There's different times to kind of mess around and play with that imagery. And that includes like relaxation stuff too. So it like practicing breath work, you cannot hurt yourself with breath work unless you hold your breath too long. Don't do that. Do not recommend. Um, but a lot of these things work when you're injured. This also helps with like hard conversations, right? The emotion regulation, because that's also a performance. Um, Even just managing like getting through a new city, right? If you're coming to compete and you're not from the area, okay, like how do I regulate myself so I have a little bit better access to my brain and it will cost me less spoons while I try to navigate this because it's going to cost me more than a local. So it's just being a little bit more um I guess discretionary would be a word on how you're spending your energy and knowing that the idea is to reserve it and do things that your present self do now so that your future self can be successful when we are in the field of play and competing. So, Mark, I saw you wrote something. Imagery. That's probably what you wrote. Imagery. Cool. If anybody else is thinking about what they want to practice, let me know. Any questions? How do you manage negative self-talk during competition? That's a great question. I like agonize whether or not I was going to do self-talk, but I did not want this to turn into a 2-hour conversation. So, self-talk is either a performance enhancer or a performance inhibitor. And so I don't organize self-talk as like negative or positive. I think about it as negative or productive because like most of the time, I will say, not all the time, but most of the time, negative self-talk is not productive because it's a distraction. Because the negative self-talk no longer becomes about the performance, it becomes about like me not doing or not being or whatever. So the first thing you do, because if I could stop negative self-talk, you wouldn't hear from me. I'd be living like a sultan somewhere lavish, but I have not cracked that code yet. So the first step is awareness. Awareness is always going to be your first step. So the first thing, and it sounds like you have it, which is good, is like being aware in the moment when you're like, wow, that was not very nice. That was a not nice thing I just said to myself. Like I am in the spiral of negative self-talk right now. So you have to catch it before you can let it go. So the first step is awareness. The second step is like, what is something productive that you can replace it with? So it's either negative or productive. I said sometimes because I do know I have had, and like respectfully, it's always a guy athlete, but they're like, yeah, I do really well when I'm like talking shit to myself. And I'm like, I wish you wouldn't, but okay. Um, a lot of times is like when you do that, it's because if it is productive and negative, it's either task specific, so like something technical. So if I made a mistake and I'm ruminating because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I made that mistake, or I'm so nervous or whatever, what is something that's important that's just neutral feeling? And that's usually something task oriented. So it's like if I'm a thrower, like, can I hit this angle? Make sure my arm is straight next time. Like we are taking away the emotion and we're just going to do something that is physical and productive and less commentary on who I am as a person. Sometimes the inner cheerleader works. If you feel like you're gaslighting and lying to yourself, I don't recommend it, right? If you're like, if things are going bad and you're having a bad competition, you're not going to be like, it's okay, right? Because it's like, all right, well, now I don't believe myself. So I like to do task specific, but sometimes you do need to be your hype person. And sometimes the productive self-talk is something where you're just refocusing because if the negative self-talk is a distraction, the productive self-talk is being like, okay, bring me back to here. And sometimes you don't need to think about technique. Sometimes you just need to get like re-energized, refocus. And so it could be like be here now. I know like a big one in the non-disabled world, not their fault, is like be where your feet are or be where your body is or like what am I feeling right now? So including the mindfulness now. So one, I have my awareness of negative self-talk, and then two, I'm going to replace it with like, what's actually happening? What am I feeling? Like, where is my body? What's going on? But I really like, I think during competition, the best thing you can do is just like task specific. So like something technical, something that you know works. So like for me, I was never the strongest person when I was a long jumper, but I was really good technically. So if I knew I was kind of ruminating or things weren't going well, I'd be like, push really hard, Lacey. Like, okay, go really hard. And so again, these are instructions you're giving yourself, and that's a little bit more of like presence. Um, and sometimes, yeah, sometimes presence is like a little bit more helpful than something task specific, depending on where you are with your like literacy of your sport. But I think that like those two is kind of just like what would be the most productive thing to replace your negative self-talk. Um, okay, Shannon. I'm working on negative self-talk by asking myself if you would tell a friend, yes, that is a great exercise. Like, would you dare use those words to someone you care about? Probably not. That would be crazy. Would you let someone else talk to your friend like that in front of you? Also, probably not, right? So that's one of the hardest things in a sport context and in the sport world is like we are our harshest critics. And that can be really difficult, especially if you have like maybe like a coach that's not the nicest. I've had some kind of mean coaches, right? And like then they would say something and you're like, all right, not helpful. Like, yeah, I don't need help in this department. So you have to kind of flip that. Like you need to be your greatest supporter. The only way, let me turn my captions back on if they went off. The only way that you are going to be successful is if you believe in and support and cheer for yourself as much as your mom does, or as much as your dad does, or as much as the people in your life who support you do. Because ultimately it's you out there in the field of play. And if, what is it? Rule Paul said it the most. She's like, if you don't believe it and love yourself, then who else is going to do it, right? Hopefully you can see, I put the captions back up because I realized those are from my slideshow, but there we go. Okay. Any more questions, comments? I put in my captions just in case, but I think we might be done for this evening.
Yeah, no,
I
don't
would
be shy,
I was
guys.
just gonna say one more thing, that in a meet, things can get extremely hectic and there can be weather and there can be factors that we didn't plan on. And I just think to the athletes that are here, just slowing it down a bit so that you can do a number of the techniques that Lacey had gone by. And maybe you just need to go away a little bit, walk away or wheel away for, a couple minutes, but to really kind of take a minute to get yourself together. And I know how social track and field is, but I would just say if you can try to get yourself in a good place, that would be a good thing.
Oh, Cindy, I love that you said that. How many minutes do I have? Because now I'm like, let me go on my para track and field soapbox for a second. That was a skill that took me a long time to master as an athlete because I think the para meets and the para events are so inherently social because it's like so fun to be around each other. It's like literally so fun and the best thing ever. And good things can also be a distraction. The first time that I made my national A standard, I was a long jumper. It was my first jump. You usually get 6 jumps. It was at Chula Vista, so the training center. I made it in my first jump and I was like elated, right? And I was like so happy and chatting and like all this stuff. The rest of my long jump series, I fouled. I fouled out. I fouled out. And right, it only takes one jump. But I was talking to my sports psych and he's like, Lacey, that was a bad competition. And I'm like, what do you mean? Right. And so there's positive things that can still be just as distracting as the negative things. So when we're at like these track meets, and I love that you brought up weather, if we have a delay or something, if there's an unexpected thing that like kind of takes time out, that is a great time to practice some mental skills because not only are you getting better at your sport, you're also building what I like to call emotional endurance because that's definitely something that you need at any track meet. Those things are long, right? Those weekends are long. And also like when you make teams, when like you're on trips that are maybe like 3 days, maybe a week, maybe the 2 weeks, maybe a Paralympic Games. You feel like you're there for a month and you're gonna start getting mail there soon, right? And that can cost a lot. Like, that's too many spoons to count. So this is something that we use to practice to keep our spoons. And even though it's good and it feels good and it's fun to be social, if you have noticed and think back about maybe a past competition where you were really social, you were happy to see your friends, and then maybe you just couldn't get it like locked in when you needed to, that's a great sign that it's like, you know what, you can say hello, be friendly, and be like, hey, let me catch you after I'm done competing. Like, let me get my competition stuff done first, or if I know I'm going to compete today and compete tomorrow, I can come say hi, but like, I'm not going to be run ragged. I got stuff to do, right? So it's knowing yourself, like thinking back to a time when you've competed really well, thinking back to a time using those imagery skills when you've competed maybe not so well, and noticing like what happened then, and also what happened when it was really good. I like to end on what's good because like you just get better hormones floating through your body. But being aware that you're like, okay, I know me, I'm a talker. So I had to find ways to be like, let me compete first and then I will come yap afterwards. But Cindy, I love that you said that because I feel like that's so distinct for para and adaptive sport.
I have a question, kind of about mental performance and things like that.
Yeah.
In terms of like the professional side, just because I myself am a sports psychology student as well,
Nice.
and so it's kind of cool to kind of hop on the Zoom, and I appreciate the skills and stuff. Um, but how do you manage energy, like your own energy for others? Because obviously there's, we've got to think quite a bit and be there for others. Meanwhile, you could be experiencing chronic pain through like disability related stuff. So, in what ways have you managed that?
That's a great question. I am going to ask a clarifying question. I'll give you a little bit of an answer, and then I'm going to ask a clarifying question just to
Sure.
make sure I'm answering it. Being in a caring career is hard, right? Because it costs a lot of spoons, regardless. And I think we have to remind ourselves what I do, and I think like it's like an ethical obligation is to like, I'm still seeing a sports psychologist. I consider the mental performance work like physical health. Like it's just something that I regularly do to maintain myself. So I still like work with the sports psych specifically, and then I have a ton of mentors and colleagues. I'd be calling them up left and right and be like, this thing happened. What do you think? Like this, right? And you still maintain your confidentiality, but we talk about scenarios. We talk about maybe like, here's kind of a broad thing would happen. Here's what I said, reflecting on it. At the end of the day, just like being a para athlete, like when a professional still needs community and support. Like, and I think that that's the way that we manage these loads because it's a lot and you're also managing yourself. So my clarifying question is, I'm like, do you mean like the cognitive load that you're having with chronic pain or like for me, like if I've had a phantom pain flare up in the middle of a session and I'm like, hold on, like, do you mean kind of in this, in the moment as well?
Yeah, I mean, both were. That
Okay.
was that was helpful. The first part of what you said, just because again, it kind of feels like you're going in and you think, dang, like for me, for example, I mean, I haven't started consulting yet, just like from chronic pain mostly.
Yeah.
But like part of me thinks like, am I really gonna have enough of the capacity to hold space for other people, let's say, and but I feel like as I manage it better and as I start to improve, obviously the amount of spoons I can use for others also, um,
Yeah.
multiplies, let's say.
Yeah. I think as you like continue through the journey of like the career or the calling or whatever, whatever it is at this point, I find some of my sessions like replenish me. Like I think that's why a lot of us get into this is like the helping thing. Also, like I have some sessions where yeah, I'm done and I'm like, holy crap, like that was a lot. But I do have
Yeah.
some sessions where I'm done and like my cup feels so full and like like you have an athlete doing well and like it really is replenishing. And like there's been times where I'll be having a phantom pain or like something or like my leg. Like I'm wearing a check socket right now. I don't know how familiar you guys are with prosthetics. Every time I go up, I have to like re-put my leg on. It's embarrassing. So a lot of it is like your level of comfort with like self-disclosure of the disability when you're working with the client. If it's another disabled person, there's like a level that feels more comfortable. But then there's also like in the rapport building, I like to think of it as like we're giving pieces of ourselves to each other when we're working with clients, right? And you're not going to tell your life story to a client because like that's not, they're paying you to talk about themselves. But in order to strengthen the relationship and get the trust that you need and get the buy-in that you need, like it's also worth like showing parts of yourself and like your Paralympic journey and your disability journey. I can almost guarantee you like will pay off and show that you're more genuine and authentic in your work than any other thing. And so it's like it's handling yourself with grace, I think, more than even worrying about like the client. But yeah, that was like a dance and a journey. And like as you continue through school, hit me up. I'm happy to be your mentor. And we can talk because I remember I was like, when do I self-disclose me to my client? Because like the disability part, when you do the work, is just as important as the sport part, in my opinion, in my life and in my opinion. So that was a long answer, but hopefully I helped with that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, thank you. I'd be
Yeah.
sure to reconnect with you.
Hit me up. Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 601. We did it, guys.
Yeah, 801 here, but
Oh, yeah. Later
uh,
one over
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah, right. You were talking about dinner. I was like, we already had dinner.
Oh, yeah.
We're
People
2 hours
had dinner.
behind us.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions, guys? Oh, yeah. Could you put your email in the chat?
Oh, yeah.
Whenever, however you would like for them to reach out to you.
Let me do my Gmail. I know I was emailing you with my timber stuff, but there's so much stuff going on in soccer right now. I don't know if you guys heard. There's an entire World Cup happening, so let me do that.
Just a little,
Yeah,
World Cup,
yeah, there's a
no
big
big
thing
deal,
going
no
on.
biggie.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I really got a lot out of this, and it's always good to have those reinforcements, no matter, like I said in the beginning, it could be in any part of your life. For me, it's not necessarily sport related, but I still got quite a bit out of this, and
Yeah.
um, it helped my stress level because I'm feeling a little stressed right now. Um,
Long exhale.
Parts are
Long
coming.
exhale.
Long days are
Oh, this
coming.
was great, Lacey, not only for our athletes, but for those of us that are on here doing different parts of the game. So, and for our team members, I'm so glad that we, Amy as a coach and, the athletes that are on the screen hopped on. So excited for the upcoming weekend and so appreciative of Lacey and her session.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
thank you so
just
much. We
practice, guys.
appreciate it.
It gets better with time, just like a nice wine. So keep practicing. And yeah, and
Practicing. That's shirts that say that. Just keep practicing.
just practice. Yeah, just keep showing
Right.
up. All right. Well,
Exactly. All
thank you
right. Well,
so
thank you so
All right,
much. We
thank
appreciate
you.
it. And
All right.
we'll see you guys hopefully live and in person soon. Take
Thank
Sounds
care.
you.
good luck, everyone, for the weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
much. Bye.